Okay, this is now the 5 Minute Tarot for the 17th of June 2017. And I have a couple of points to make. I'd like to begin, though, with a comment that somebody left a couple of days ago. I can't remember the person's name, mainly because it's a made-up name. But anyway, and I think I know who it is. Anyway, she left a comment about the Ace of Swords in a horoscope spread. If it relates to career, it could be a chef. So that's really good. And so it makes sense. You've got a cutting instrument and you've got the idea of a career or occupation, and it could well be a chef. And then I thought maybe the Ace of Swords along with the Sun could mean you open your own restaurant. Or if you've got the Ace of Swords and the Three of Pentacles, which is a card of the craftsman, you've got a master chef. And if you've got the Ace of Swords along with the Eight of Pentacles, which is a card of the apprentice, you've got somebody training to be a chef. So you've got different variations. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because when I lived in Holland, in Amsterdam, I had friends who worked in hotels, and the boyfriend of one of the friends then, his name was Steve, and he worked as a chef. So that I might have one day remembered Steve and made the connection with the Ace of Swords and a chef. But when the person left this comment about the Ace of Swords, I thought I wouldn't have thought of that. And the point is that you, and I mean you personally, you've got your own experiences and understanding and examples and people that you know and things you've been through and things that have worked and things that didn't work. So that when you look at a card and talk about what it means, you're bringing your own experience that's valid and relevant and is going to say something to the questioner. Because you can get a friend of yours that you can talk to, and when you speak, you sort of get your message across, and you could introduce me to that friend of yours, and I could talk to the friend, and I might as well not speak because we sort of don't connect the same way. So you, personally, when you're doing readings, you're going to have your type of person that you attract. And so even though you like what somebody else says about what a card means, you've got your own message, let's say, or your own information and your own take on cards and what they mean to pass on to the people that you attract who come to you for readings, or people that you bump into and that you end up doing something for. And so your personal experience is valid and relevant for your people. And this I'm probably going to refer to this later, because I mentioned either yesterday or the day before, or maybe it was the day before that I think that the tarot is important and it's valuable, even though it doesn't have much of a reputation at the moment, and it's not taken that seriously by people who ought to take it seriously. And so there was a comment left, and I've got it on screen, and I have to read it to you, by Per Boogaloo, whoever you are. Okay, so the Per Boogaloo said, I'm faced with how to describe what the tarot is to people who have no experience of it and may think it's evil, right? How would you describe it to people who may only think of it as fortune telling? Okay, this kind of question and various answers to that type of question, as well as lots of other questions. This is my original idea for creating and putting together the material at thetarotbook.com. Because what I wanted to do was go through all the questions that people might ask themselves from first deciding they wanted to learn the tarot all the way through to doing a reading. And so what I did was, in the contents, I raised various questions, and I would ask you or ask the reader questions, and then I would offer various answers. And this was so that so that readers could be prepared when people asked them an awkward question. It would mean that they'd already come up with some various ideas about how they would deal with that particular awkward question. And they weren't stumped or they weren't tongue-tied. And this was because they had already thought a little bit about it. And also, it was the idea was to give readers a clearer picture in their own mind of what it is that we're dealing with the tarot. So, what do you do if somebody thinks that the tarot is evil? If you've ever seen the movie Crocodile Dundee, there's a bit where a crocodile, can't remember his name, Paul Hogan's the actor, but he and the girlfriend are walking through New York, I think it is, and these three young fellows come up, and one of them asks for a light for his cigarette, and then he takes out a switchblade, a flick knife, and points at it, and Mick and says, oh, Mick it is, Mick Dundee, and says to Mick, see that? I couldn't remember his name when I thought about it, but when I came to talk about it, I automatically used the name Mick. And this is what you find with tarot cards as well, that if you try to think of the meaning or try to remember something, you may not be able to do it. But if you just talk, you're going to discover that your subconscious mind takes over, or your knowledge and your understanding takes over, and you talk automatically and express things that you already knew, but sometimes you say things that you didn't know that you knew. Anyway, so Mick and the girlfriend are out, and the fellow comes up and he's got a switchblade, and the girlfriend says to Mick, give him your wallet, Mick. He's got a knife. And so Mick reaches into his back pocket and brings out this huge hunting knife, and he says to the young fellow, that's not a knife, that's a knife. So when somebody says to you, or if somebody says to you, the tarot is evil, you know, you could say, if you want evil, think politicians. That's real evil. The tarot is nothing like evil politicians who twist and lie, and they're doing it. They try to sound good, but all they're doing is twisting the truth so that they can stay in power. So one of the questions or the things that I looked at in the tarotbook.com was, what happens if somebody says that the tarot is anti-religious or it's evil? What do you say? And I think I said at the time, you take something like, I mean, people take seriously dream interpretation and don't see there's anything wrong with it, even though maybe it's all just fantasy and made up. But you've got university departments and you get books and you get all sorts of material produced on what dreams might mean. So how come the tarot is so bad? And there is no answer, because the tarot is not that bad. So I think the point of this video is, okay, I want to say to you that the answer to making the tarot more respectable is for you. And again, I mean you personally watching this video right now. You write a book. Write your own tarot book. And if you think it's beyond you, it's not. It's only because you haven't thought of it. And so you're going to find that the best way to learn something is to teach it. So I'm not saying that by all means offer classes if you want. And classes teaching the tarot is quite a good way to learn it, because you've got to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of the students, the people, because they're going to ask you questions. You don't need to know everything. That's a mistake. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know a little bit more than the people. So when they ask you something, you can give them an answer. And then over the next week, you can get more information about what the answer would be. So when they ask you a follow-up question, you've got them covered and you know what to say. But I'm saying, think about writing your own book, or think about how you would go about writing it. Because what would you include? How would you begin the book? Would you talk about the history of the tarot? Why is that important? Or would you just start with a card? And how many chapters would you have? Would you have 78 chapters, one for each card? And would you organize them all the same way? How would you organize your book? So let's say you get the King of Cups. Would you have a whole chapter or a whole section on the King of Cups? Or would you have the four kings in their own little section, where you talk about, because for the King of Cups, coins, batons and swords, they've all got something in common because they're kings. So what is it that they have in common? And maybe you would want to organize your information so that you talk about what kings have in common and what a king would tell you about or would indicate if it came up in a reading. And you're going to talk about reverse cards. What do they mean? So do you look at the King of Cups and say, we've got a king here, and because we've got Notepad and hyperlinks, and even in Microsoft Word you've got hyperlinks, so you could have the King of Cups and you've got king is a link to a section about what kings represent, and then you've got cups. Cups is underlined because it's a link to a section about the suit of cups. So you can have all sorts of interrelated information. And so you could have, let's say, the King of Cups is holding a cup. And you can have a link to the Ace of Cups, where you've also got a hand. In this case, it's out of a cloud, but it's holding a single cup. So you can show the reader a link between the King of Cups and the Ace of Cups that you might not have noticed yourself. But you have to then wonder, what's the significance of the hand holding the cup? Is the King of Cups in some way a smaller version of, or a less powerful version of, the hand of God, let's say, emerging from the cloud, holding the cup in the Ace of Cups? So you can have a section about what cups are about, but how are you going to organize it? Or how would you organize it? What makes sense? Do you have a whole section about cups? Do you talk about the ocean in the King of Cups? Do you talk about the fact that he's sitting on a throne? And a throne represents power and authority. And you need that because he's a king. But so sitting on a throne can be somebody who has power because of their surroundings. So maybe you've got the individual who's got a corner office in a building, or maybe they've got a secretary. And because they've got somebody working for them, that gives them added prestige and power and authority. So the secretary or the assistant or the PA can be like the king sitting on the throne. He's not just a king. He's got evidence and proof that he is somebody of power. In the johnstarotcourse.com, there was a section about, one of the videos there is about, write down 100 things you can do with a cup and 100 things you can do with a sword. And that's an exercise to get to know what cups mean. So I thought of that when I was wondering about what to say about this. So with a cup, you can carry liquid, and that might be important. You can carry liquid that would normally fall. Cups are really useful if you want to carry water from there to here. You know, you can't easily do it with a cardboard box, because it'll soak through the cardboard. Maybe you could use a plastic bag, but it's a cup shape. And even if you think about, if you come to a stream and you're thirsty, you cup your hands. There's an expression to cup the hands. So you can actually make a cup shape using your hands. And I think that's the only suit, because you can't really make your hand into a sword. Maybe you can if you do karate, but you can't make your hand into a baton or into a coin. So maybe there's something particularly human about the suit of cups. Okay, so I'm suggesting that how we can make the tarot more respectable is if we all have websites, or we all write books, and we all have websites as well. Because HostGator is really cheap. It's like $4 a month for hosting in a website. So you could easily set up a website for yourself, and instead of just writing information or making notes about cards, put them onto your website and have a few people who read. Because there's something about finding a website where you've got real people with their own experiences and their own stories about what the cards mean. Because you personally, I'm assuming that you're not going to be like most tarot books, which just copy what other people have written, or do their take on it. But your writings and thoughts and ideas and suggestions and meanings and experiences, they're personal and they're real and they're relevant. So the quality of the information that you would put into a book is going to be quite high and better than most books that have been written about the tarot. And you can easily put it on a website. And it's your personal exploration, let's say, of the tarot. And maybe we could have a list somewhere of everybody who wants to participate, and everybody can go and look at everybody else's stuff. Because there's something about reading blogs or websites where people post what they find interesting and what they find useful. Okay, that ended up being an awful lot longer than I had wanted or expected or thought. But anyway, that's it for the moment. Tomorrow I'll do something else. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.